Taurus, we're starting off your reading with the Six of Pentacles today, and it's very fitting because we're looking at overgiving as the complex for the atonement stage of the hero's journey. And I think those are pretty well intertwined. Because the atonement stage, this is the final boss fight. Everything we've been working for, everything we've done, all the strife being brought to the lowest of our low, is for this moment. In any movie that you would see, it'd be like, the last reading, we were talking about The Lion King, so the confrontation between Scar and Simba, everything leads up to this moment. And after everything goes down and we finally receive, it could very well be for the first time in our life, we might have a temptation to overgive because we know what it's like to not have. So we'll start getting some cards, we'll get into it. And this is the Thoth Tarot. It says success there on the little subtext. But atonement, that's also referred to as the resurrection stage in the hero's journey, because that's, you've come back into yourself. All that work, all that effort has returned you to who you are. And The Lion King is a good example for that because, he kind of gave up on that idea of becoming king. And then when he was notified that things were desolate and in despair in his homeland, he went back and, took his rightful place. Oh, here we go. Debauch. This looks like the Seven of Cups. Yeah. So the illusion card, And we had talked about that too in the last reading. How perception was used as a weapon. And I kind of wanted to go with a headier deck for this because, modern warfare fought with words, as it were. Anything you might be dealing with is likely to be more of a mental and verbal conflict, hopefully. At least that's my hope, and not like an actual physical altercation. But this has a very swampy look to it to me. And debauch, it's debauchery. That's what it's making me think of, reveling in debauchery. Maybe that's that celebration after whatever goes down. Because the implication is that you will overcome. Because this is a hero's journey. If the hero didn't overcome, it would be a tragedy. So maybe you've got a turncoat in your midst that is waiting to see the results, the success, and then tempt the hero with some type of debauchery, whatever your vice happens to be. We all got them, no shame. It's kind of making me think of Game of Thrones. What was her name? Yara? The Greyjoy chick? She seemed like somebody who'd be very easily swayed by a beautiful woman, being able to be taken off course. Princess of Wands. Speaking of beautiful women. Very passionate individual. And all the red and the tiger here, and that looks like an Aries symbol, so a lot of passion. But it's very sensual, of the body. And maybe that's their success. Getting you into your body and out of your mind. that make you susceptible to illusions. So this could be the conflict itself. Like this could be a strategy to overtake the hero, you, whomever that is in this story for you. It's like seducing them into stupidity, which is so easy to do. Not gonna lie, it's happened. That's why I think boundaries with yourself are really important, especially if you're seeking something particular, you're looking for a long-term partnership or whatever. Maybe don't share your energy with flings, one night stands. I mean, you do you. I just think that if you're in the market for one thing, carrying on like you're not, like it's not going to get you the results you want, Happiness. Yeah, Nine of Cups. The wish fulfillment. Because I've thought about that a lot. Because I'd like the long-term partnership, and I find myself in these like repeat situations of these like casual flings and situationships, as the kids are calling it these days. And it just never blossoms into what I'm hoping that it will, like these seeds aren't taking root. And I think if, at least in my case, if those seeds are going to take root, holding out for someone that they really could take root with, I think that's the way. But the caveat to that is the dry spell in between things. And that could very well be a temptation. Because, I picked a headier deck. We're talking about mind games, psychological games, what have you. Someone might know that about you. That you're holding out for what you really want. And throwing temptation into the mix just to be a dick. I don't know. Like why, for whatever reason, you're in this conflict with whomever. But let's see. So we've got illusion, happiness, and princess. Ooh, princess of wands. A little bit of a slip. It does seem like this person is trying to cast an illusion. It doesn't have to be with, like, relationships or anything. Could be money, too. Maybe you're trying to make a better life for yourself, or you want to be rich and famous, like, whatever. Maybe they're making you some promises. And that Aries energy, very bold, very assured, convincing. But what's the reason behind this illusion? Like what's behind these curtains here? Achievement. Sun in Capricorn. Somebody trying to achieve something? Okay, yeah. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward for this stage of the hero's journey. And a big achievement, too. Like, that's what I've always got from this card. It's got that, like, complex there. Exaltation. Wow. Some sort of status? Oh, and moon in Taurus. That's, 6 of Pentacles. It's the same astrological astronomy. but trying to cast illusion over you for achievement, exaltation. I mean, I guess the ultimate victory in this hero's journey. And indecision, Mercury in Libra, but it's in reverse. Trying to sway decision in their favor through illusion. I don't feel like I have enough about this status thing, though. Like, I mean, you'll know for your own context, maybe that makes sense, but what's this status? Innovation. It came out on its side. Jupiter in Aquarius. A new status? A new thing? A new frontier? Let me get more detail. Over here on the left. What is this status? Like, what are we fighting for here? The Hermit in reverse. And there's Cerberus here on this card. And the little, like, cosmic egg wrapped with the snake. The Hermit in reverse, that can be isolation. That can also be letting the light out, because the Hermit is going within to find the light, like to find the light within. But then in reverse, it could be setting it free. So coming out of Hermit mode. What's that got to do with status? Is that light a secret? Some super hidden secret or something? Seven of Wands in reverse. I mean, of course, the antagonist would be trying to get the hero to give up their position. And this says Valor at the bottom. And that seventh wand in the middle, like the way it's got the little sections, that gives me a spine. Is like what that looks like to me, like different vertebrae. Trying to get you to give up your spine, like get you to give up your valor. Maybe that's what was found during this hermit mode. You know, because coming from the approach to the ordeal to the reward and whatnot, that's that little ascension. Good morning, kitten. Hi. That's that little ascension chunk of the hero's journey. You know, those 3 stages are what I think of as leveling up. And so those phases have likely fundamentally changed you in some way. Maybe you were more meek at the beginning of this hero's journey, and now you're not. And an illusion is being cast to try and weaken that resolve. I feel like there's something bigger, though, behind like the individual conflict between the hero and the antagonist. Like there's a greater reason besides like just being a jerk, you know? Like people that can't handle others' success or whatever. Speaking of success, the star. And art. Temperance. What a combo. Yeah, Kizun. The star and temperance. Is that the bigger purpose? The hermit's the star? The, like you. And this is the star of your show, your hero's journey, but that light that the hermit has in the lantern, that's the star. Like, you can interpret it that way. Because the star is Aquarius energy. And it feels like a blend of like the academic and the esoteric, and it's like this, especially with this duality here on the temperance card, or art card in this case. It's this unification of self, like the individuation process, which you can absolutely look at the hero's journey like that. Like, it's not necessarily an external conflict with other people. Like, there might be those along the way, of course, but it's really about coming home to who you are. And what I'm not getting is why this person wouldn't want that, whoever this respective antagonist is in your story. And it very well could just be they're threatened by your personal growth. It's something that they're not ready to face in themselves, and in order to regulate their nervous system, they tear you down to accomplish that. And that's something it took me a while to, excuse me. But it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around that. Like, when I thought about regulating your nervous system, I generally thought about that in like positive ways. But really what that means is maintaining homeostasis. That's what your nervous system wants. And so if you were raised in dysfunction and in an antagonistic system, your nervous system is going to seek those things out. So someone who is antagonistic themselves sees someone who is being successful, rather than going, oh, I can emulate that and create that in my own life in order to regulate these feelings that I'm feeling. It's going to be more of a, oh, well, if I tear them down, that's what happened to me when I was a kid and I was succeeding and my parent was envious of me. So now that's what I do to regulate myself when I see things that make me uncomfortable. Of course, your internal monologue is likely not going to be that clinical, but just trying to explain it in like just a way to convey that's what that regulation is seeking. It's seeking the same. That's what that means. Like for like. It'd be kind of weird if your nervous system was like excess cortisol. It'd be helpful though, actually. Choice. Mars in Libra. Here we go with these Mars cards again. So yeah, it's a choice. Like, there's the Maya Angelou, like, forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know. But once you do know it, you can make a choice. And one of the most difficult choices that you will be presented with on a hero's journey, on a healing journey, individuation, whatever, is the choice to not regulate other people's emotions for them. That's that overgiving piece, with the Six of Pentacles. There can be a compensation when, like, where that wound came from. You know, maybe it happened to you, but it developed in a different way, whatever. But you know the roots of it. What's that song? Shortchange Hero by The Heavy. I know just what you're running from. I don't know where you're coming from, but I know just what you're running from. That, like, you get it on some level, but there can be an urge to let me fix it. I can fix you. No, you can't. They have to be the ones to want to do the work themselves. You can't sew those psychic wounds closed for someone. I know, I have tried many, many times. Like, if I just present the right facts and information and psych articles and things like that, like, you'll understand. They might not want to. And it sucks because you're coming from that place of you want to help, and it's such a hit to the inner child when they don't want to make things better in a healthy way. And you gotta let them. It sucks. Because there's such a deep desire to, like, but if you just had the same information I had, you'd make the same choice. No. No. I see the urge, like, where that would come from, but yeah, it can be really heartbreaking. Order. Moon in Virgo. Yeah, trying to maintain order. The order of things. And, I mean, it's not like learning those things are futile. I mean, look what I'm doing. I've put in a ton of effort into my own healing journey and, like, interpersonal resolutions and things like that. The problem is I've been in environments that they're lost on. Thank goodness there's the internet. And it's available to people who want it. And I don't have to be trying to change the people around me while still trying to disseminate all this, like, helpful and valuable information that I've gained. It's just about finding your people, finding your audience, you know? Because I don't want to see any of that, like, just get lost, you know, go to waste. Not that it's wasted on just me, but I think you know what I mean. Rebellion, Mars in Aquarius, another Mars card, and another Moon card. Ooh. Adaptability, Moon in Gemini. So we went Mars, Moon, Mars, Moon. So a real conflict between action and emotion. And if you're like me, somebody who is overgiven, and we are talking about the Six of Pentacles, that doesn't necessarily have to be just money. You might be giving in an emotional way. You know, if you're the therapist friend, that is still giving of your time and energy and skill and so forth. But there comes a point where I think you just kind of take a good hard look around you and you recognize the people who don't want your help. Because I understand that, like, my situation is extreme. You know, me having to estrange myself from so many people. Not everybody's situation is like that, thankfully. If people aren't putting reciprocal effort into you, into what you're saying, just kind of like nodding along, like, oh yeah, that's cool, whatever, and then just like going right back to talking about themselves, Is that the type of friendship you want in your life? Is that the type of relationship you want in your life? Because that person is not actually taking an interest in you. Even if they don't want your help, are they taking an interest in what you're talking about, or just kind of humoring that you're blabbing, you know? And I feel like the longer I go on this healing process, which I think is indefinite, but the longer it goes on, the more I see, like, so many relationships of circumstance that, yeah, we met, because of school or work or whatever, but we really don't have much else in common. We talk about movies and music and whatnot, but nothing very deep. So, I don't know. I think when you rebel against that status quo, really digging your heels in is a way to get through this atonement stage and really return to who you are. Because that'll help you combat any type of illusion, just maintaining that authenticity. Like, no, this isn't true to me. This isn't what I want anymore. Cast all the illusions you want. I know who I am. It's an interesting thought. But over here on the right, what does that mean for us? The hero overcoming this conflict. What's that little nugget we need to hold on to? Luxury. Four of Cups. Interesting. Because in other decks, this would be the apathy card. And it can also be the missed opportunity card. Like looking down at the Three Cups, I guess kind of like what I was talking about, those relationships that, maybe you've had for a really long time, but you've outgrown each other. And, you've got that person in the Rider-Waite sitting down beneath a tree, arms crossed, like very, I don't like using the word pouty, but it's given kind of like a pouty energy to it. And then missing the cup that's like coming from the hand of God out of the sky, like kind of almost knocking him on the head, like, hello, are you in there? Like, this is what you've been waiting for. But you're so concentrated on those three cups that you totally, like, miss it. Maybe you want a life of luxury. That's totally fine. I think as long as you're being environmentally ethical. If you can afford the secondhand boutiques, do it. Goodness gracious. I think I saw a stat. It was like, we have enough clothes on planet Earth for the next 6 generations. Like, calm down with the fast fashion. Buy stuff that's gonna last. Let's see, luxury. So what else about this? The Fool. Oh. A new journey. And the next stage is the return. So the return to the ordinary world, which can go a few different ways. Excuse me. One of the, I think, most significant ways that can go is realizing you don't fit into that ordinary world anymore. That was the Pisces reading. That's where we started. Um, but it's kind of like, realizing these relationships just aren't for you anymore. And it's just time to go, start anew. Um, I don't know. Change your name, move across the country. Like be nice. Like if you really do go that extreme, you're just moving in the middle of the night. At least let people know you're not dead. Like they might have of course they're going to have their feelings on it. Like, wait, this relationship's been deteriorating for months, but now you're leaving? What? Um, if you got to cut and run, you got to cut and run, you know? It's kind of like how therapy with antagonistic personalities, like a couple therapies or something, that can like exacerbate the situation. That doesn't necessarily make it better. And it's your life, you know? I think there's a really disproportionate expectation on what, like, the hand holding people are supposed to do with grown adults. Like, you were being, like, rude to me this entire time, but I have to explain your actions to you in order to be considered not the jerk for, like, up and leaving. Like, it, there's just a point where you gotta, like, all right, I'm gonna be the villain. Like, in my hero's journey, I'm gonna be the villain. So be it. Uh, and especially, too, with the overgiving, that can pull you back away from your new beginning. And I don't know if you heard that, but the candle's crackling. I'm taking that as confirmation. That overgiving, like, say some of these relationships that you've outgrown, they've been generous with you in the past. Helped you when you were down and out and whatnot. But in between that time and now, when you received your great success, um, they haven't been the best of folk to you. But now that you've achieved success, there's an open hand. I think that happens to a lot of people that achieve success. Like, people come out of the woodwork. And that overgiving, like, you might feel guilt around, like, well, they did help me. And remember, it was a gift, not a loan. Don't let people backpedal on, like, well, I did this for you, and especially, like, family and whatnot. Like, I clothed you and I fed you and blah, blah, blah. That's the bare minimum. If you don't do that, you go to jail. You don't get a gold star for that. I think, who was it? Who was it, kitten? Yeah, doing a big stretch. Sorry. Kelly Clarkson? Her estranged father, like, when she hit it big on the singing show that made her famous, he came out of the woodwork and, like, with an open hand of, like, you should be paying for this, that, and the other. And I think, if I recall, she had some choice words. Good for her. What do you think, kitten? What do you think? Well, what about this new journey? Because really, this hero's journey, going through all that trouble of answering the call to adventure and, like, getting just wrecked, brought down to your lowest point, and then, getting back up, climbing back up the mountain. Don't let the people that you had to overcome pull you back. Those guilt trips can be serious business. I was raised on guilt trips. I know how rough they can be. And I think getting comfortable with being the villain, because it's never going to be good enough. Whatever explanation you give, whatever rationale you provide, it's never going to be good enough. And that's right when these cards flipped over. So we've got the Eight of Swords, Interference. Yeah, this is my gaslighting card. And Knight of Swords. Reversed too. Both reversed. And Knight of Swords is the, like, reckless hero. Impulsive. And in reverse, I like to think of him as more sure-footed. So this is like psychological warfare with precision. You know, somebody coming in, knowing what your buttons are, and pressing them, trying to, like, get the gumball machine to spit out the candy, you know, now that you have success. But I think you're going to see right through it. Been through enough getting here, getting to this point, that I think you're likely to see the gaslighting plain as day and prepare for the hurt. It still doesn't feel good. Like, all of these sharpening your tool sets and developing those skill sets of being able to recognize this type of manipulative behavior and harmful behavior, it still hurts when it happens. And I feel like it really hurts the most that first time you really see it in broad daylight, like after you haven't spoken to somebody in a while and you've seen past the mask and then you see him again, but they're still up to their same nonsense. Yes, kitten, I hear you. You already had breakfast. But it really does. It doesn't feel good. Like, all that growth you've done, and they're still in the same place. And if you overgive, if you let that complex take hold and start, like, driving the car again, and I say let loosely, bear in mind. But, like, now that you know it's there, if you let that take hold and steer the ship, that's on you. You did a ton of work to get here. And they might yell, they might cry, they might guilt trip, they might blame. Stonewall. If you have to interact with this person, it's that, like, Stonewall, or was it gray rocking? I think is, yeah. But gray rocking, there's a lot of infos about that on the interwebs. But it's really giving as little reaction as possible, and, like, you're just kind of putting a wall up to get through that interaction. And then give yourself time later when you have the availability to feel the feelings. I deal with, like, you know, emotional delays and shutting down and whatnot, you know, the PTSDs. But if you know how you can re-access your emotions, I really recommend making time for that. You know, sad songs, sad movies, whatever. But this was bluff in reverse. Jupiter in Gemini. You're calling their bluff. And might just be in your head. When you are face to face with an antagonistic personality, if you've ever seen somebody's eyes go black, you know, even though, like, it would feel so good to just, like, lay into them, whatever, it might be in your best interest to just not escalate, to just kind of hold that wall. And it sucks because it feels like being held hostage by their emotional issues. Long term, though, just fending that off might be in your best interest. Uh, yeah, because you never know what's really going to trigger that, like, the serious turn to aggression or revenge. Um, it can be something as simple as, like, laughing at something they said that was, like, patently ridiculous. But if you've ever seen that change, it's really harrowing. So calling their bluff might take the form of, I'm not giving you anything. And then let them call you names, let them do like whatever they're going to do in front of people. Like, just, I'm not advocating for just like sitting there and taking it, but they do put you in kind of a position where it's a lose-lose. And that's the idea in many cases. Discrimination. Venus in Virgo in reverse. That's like, I'm feeling like moving with precision. Or maybe not. Because what's that Call of Duty audio clip? It's like attack with extreme discrimination or something. That's like extreme precision. But then in reverse, that'd be more like the shotgun approach. Like just trying to like raise the whole field. So that might be them just trying any and every button they know you have all at once, and that could be very exhausting because this is the final boss fight. You know, this is the, okay, they're gonna pull everything out against you that they know they have because they know this is the last chance. Maybe you're embroiled in some type of divorce or like legal proceeding or whatnot, and they know like at the end of it there's no connection to you because it's harassment at that point. um and it could reopen legal issues, but in the form of like a restraining order. uh so when they have the opportunity, they're gonna give it all they got. And this sucks. Like, I know I talk about like antagonistic personalities a lot, but like, who else does this? You know, like, the more years that pass in my life, the more it seems like the people that uphold the norm are deeply, deeply dysfunctional, just like the norm. Like this whole cognitive dissonance Twilight Zone episode that we seem to live in for the first half of our lives, and then like we have the midlife individuation crisis and then go, oh my god, everything's terrible. Like, everything I've been taught is just to keep me in line and keep me producing and keep me trapped in this labor trap. Words. I was trying to think of something else. Labor scam. Scheme. Pyramid scheme. Like, they said it was going to trickle down, but everything keeps going up. Like, what's happening? So bluff, discrimination, anything else? Oh, guess so. Ooh, got a few. They came out sideways. Impulsiveness, Mars in Aries. That's some heavy, hot energy. And not in a good way. Mercury in Taurus, resistance. Appreciation, Moon in Leo. And this is more like war energy, not like passion energy for the impulsiveness. But maybe that's what you're no longer resistant to. Like, maybe coming from that overgiving people people pleaser place. My goodness. um, there can be a lot of like assuaging in your past that you were the mediator, you were the negotiator, and now you are not because maybe you weren't appreciated. And there could be some resistance to that. Like, it's funny, and not funny like haha. But when you make major changes, like going through that individuation process, so forth, you really don't owe people an explanation for as to why you're not navigating your BS anymore, why you're not offering explanations where explanations are not owed. And it's still a significant departure, from the previous behavior. But people will still get really agitated about and frustrated about you no longer engaging in unhealthy behaviors. Uh, and they don't generally vocalize it. Like, well, why aren't you letting me just unload on you anymore? Like, why aren't you being my emotional punching bag? Because that would be insane, like, to say out loud, you know? And I don't know if they even know, like, consciously that that's their role that you were for them. In the same token, though, like, how could they not? I don't know. Because there's a lot of people who do really abusive things who think it's okay. They really, truly, earnestly believe that behavior is okay. Like, beating people to keep them in line is an okay thing to do. And there's this, like, guilt trip fallacy of, like, the core wound of they were traumatized, so they're just continuing the cycle. Like, you know what? I was traumatized too, and I don't beat people to keep them in line. Just saying. But, so what's the advice for the transition from atonement to the return? Because we're going to overcome this. You know, it might hurt, it might be really hard, but we'll get through it. And the nice thing about these heroes' journey in the modern world is there's not like literal hydras. Queen of Wands in reverse. Ooh, and Six of Wands in reverse. Leo. Jupiter in Leo. Did I get that? I don't think I did. But Queen of Wands, maybe this is that extra layer that I was feeling, because we started with the Princess of Wands and now we're to the Queen. So it might not necessarily be like two people, but it could be someone that is maybe acting more naive than they truly are. You know, like, I guess like weaponized incompetence, but more like deception. Like straight up deception is what I'm getting. Someone who is more aware of their actions than they're letting on. So potentially this victory that you'll be having, maybe it's private. Like, just for your best interest, maybe it needs to be a private victory. And that might still feel like being held hostage by your antagonist. And it sucks. But if it gets you out from under their influence, go. go, 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 go. Like, live your life, make your own decisions. But that's my recommendation. And like I kind of talked earlier about that, like under the cover of night, like moving, and letting the people that you want to let know that like you didn't die. It might, even if they are not antagonistic themselves, it might need to be something done after the fact, after you have gotten out from under the influence of whoever this Queen of Wands, Princess of Wands person or duo is. Because it could be parents. It could be like a sibling and a parent. It could be a boss and a big boss, like whatever. But even if they don't have malicious intent themselves, they could just like be excited for you and be like, oh, well, Seven's doing this, like Seven's moving to this place or going here or whatever. And then they screw up your exit plan, like unintentionally. You know what I mean? So it might even feel like a little bit of an ego death. Like, I worked so hard. Like, this is maybe the first big victory in your life. And you gotta bounce, like, in the cover at night. That might feel really bad. And you can celebrate later. I know it sucks. I know it would be much preferred to be in the perfect world of, I can do this in my own honor right now when it's relevant to the time, but let yourself get settled in your new digs and whatever your new frontier is, and celebrate with your new people, maybe you're finding your soul tribe. Yeah, the devil in reverse. You're ridding yourself of these negative influences, the trauma bonding. I think I saw a meme, something like that. It was, if we recognized how chemically addictive abusive relationships are, we'd classify them in an entirely different way. And that's absolutely true. And so this devil energy could be you freeing yourself of this Queen and or Princess of Wands through a private victory. It could be getting away from, like we had talked about, Yara from Game of Thrones. It could be freeing yourself of social influences that try and pull you back into your vices, whatever those may be. Because it can go far beyond those emotional influences. People just don't necessarily have respect for you trying to improve your life. Companionship and flirtation. Moon in Libra and Venus in Sagittarius. Maybe you're moving on to a companion. Maybe that's something that, like I was talking about earlier, hasn't been able to take root. And as painful as it may be, maybe you were in the wrong environment. That's that rejection is protection. Because if something had worked out in this ordinary world that you've gone through all this to escape, if something had worked out there, you would have stayed put. So if that's something that's on your mind, maybe that's on the horizon for you. Or at least, at a minimum, you're getting to a place where that could be a possibility. There's no guarantees in life. But if you're in the wrong environment, relationships, work, friendships, whatever, those aren't going to work out. At least not long term. Stay put. Very hard getting something round to stay put. Speculation, Jupiter in Cancer, and health, Sun in Virgo. Just no doubt that this is the correct course of action for your own health. Like, you've already gone through the hemming and hawing and considerations and whatnot, and you're tuning out all the external noise because you know it's best for you to move on from this ordinary world. Or potentially just the people that you've been around in your respective ordinary world. You don't necessarily have to move. But it's nice to get a change of pace, you know? Like a real change, because it kind of feels like yeah, I can get different seeds, but the soil's relatively the same, you know? We'll get an archetype card. Maybe a guide as to like what wound we need to address or something, as in order to overcome this stage, this atonement. Or this might be the wound we're carrying at the forefront, because you don't need to be completely healed to move on. And it's coming out in the reverse, so it's going to be the shadow attributes. This is mentor. Inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. So this might be the Queen of Wands, actually. Like, that might be how this is manifesting, that like archetypal connection. And maybe this is something that you've experienced multiple times in your life. And so it could be a cautionary tale of not, like, once you escape this, or you overcome the atonement, the resurrection, to not replay that wound, not become the distorted mentor, and be unwilling to share what you've learned because other people were stingy with you because they were trying to get success off of your back, you know? But this could very well be like it started with your parents, and then it played out with a friend, and then it played out with an employer or something like that. Oh, Tomb Raider. Wasn't that a plot point in that too? I feel like in the first movie with Angelina Jolie, it's like they didn't want her to have knowledge, and she was always like this exceptional whatever she put her hand to. So the games, the movies, whatever you're interested in, I really liked the last 3 games, the ones that ended in, was it Shadow of the Tomb Raider? That was really good. So something to keep you busy as you work through this very mental stage of the hero's journey, because it's going to be very taxing to get through this, and victory is on the other side. So overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.